And we are back. Thanks for dinner, man.
Oh yeah, no problem. That was my pleasure.
That sounds dope.
Yeah, I'm glad I can do that. I've never really been in a position where I can, pay for dinner
Pick
for
up a
people.
bill. Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's a
I
good
mean,
feeling
it's absolutely great.
for sure. Yeah, it's I can't get enough of Foz either.
He's such a good guy,
He's a
man.
good guy.
Like
Uh,
meeting him at the Fresco Harmony thing. There's a couple of people, um, yourself included, that I just got to shoot the shit with a little bit and everything, and just help me with that. Wow, like this community is really awesome
yeah,
to be a part of. And again, like we were talking about earlier, how it was like, being a commercial drywaller, then you hear about other drywall companies, you're like, fuck them. And
fuck these guys. Yeah,
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 or like, oh, we hired so and so who used to work for that company, and you're like, oh, well, I don't really want to be friends with this guy,
yeah.
and I don't know, I don't feel like that anymore, like going to the CSR thing, Black Friday, and the Fresco Harmony thing, and now, if you guys are doing this three-way event that I'm really looking forward
Yeah,
to. And
yeah.
um yeah, the community is just really cool, to be able to talk to people. And like, I think you had touched on it earlier about how like nobody wants to share their secrets and everything. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
people out there, yourself included, that for guys like me, like I'm learning all the time. I'm
Totally.
never one of those people that are like, I'm the best and I'm better than you.
Yeah. I am
No,
too, by the way. Yeah, I'm still every day.
yeah, I'm learning constantly, and I appreciate any constructive criticism that anybody has to me for my work or for how I'm using tools. um I think Drywall by Design did a thing about the tomahawk blades, where he's like talking about how people are using the edge of the blade to wipe, when it's like it's that part of the handle that's giving you
That's
that
right.
stability, or whatever, the to flush out your joints, or whatever, to flush out the mud.
Yeah.
And I was like doing these flattening ceilings when I'm using these tomahawk blades. I'm like trying to keep that in mind,
Yeah.
where I'm like trying to use that part instead of the tip of the blade to move that mud.
So the easiest thing that I can kind of equate that to is when you ever do Nintendo Power Magazine, like
Yeah,
things like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you can play a game at home yourself all you want to be as good as you think, but then sometimes you'd read an article and be like, I totally missed that,
hmm,
and you go back and it is that much easier or whatever. That's what Instagram's done for me with a lot of this stuff. Like I had my head wrapped around what perfect was when I started. It
yeah,
was a matter of getting there, right? Where, like I would just load up the corners and sand them down to perfect,
yeah,
right? And they were great. It just took a long time.
yeah,
And then, the triple swipe of the three-way,
yeah,
right? I had a hell of a time until I saw someone do that the first time. And I was like, wow, that's slick.
yeah,
And I tried it and I kind of got it first dozen tries, and you were like, okay, so now this stuff's not impossible,
yeah,
right? And you just kind of keep your head about you, and there are good things that people are doing that don't necessarily work for me,
yeah,
right? But try it is somebody else has already done all the back and forth about it. Give
yeah,
it a shot. Like we were just talking about boxing the beats, right? if
yeah,
i if i box a beat and tear the shit out of it twice, I'm gonna stop. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it's worth a shot.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I had an apprentice once. Well, actually more than once, but I had the certain apprentice who I really liked. He was really good. Um, and I was trying to train him how I was doing things.
Yes.
And now by this point, obviously I'm good enough to have an apprentice under me,
Right.
right? And it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Um, he was good. Um, but I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't teach you how to do things how I do it. I need to teach you how I was taught,
Yes.
which, like you said, loading on the mud and sanding it down
Yeah.
and then going from there. So like how I was taught, like we put our tapes on and then let those dry. I started with like paper tape,
Okay.
right? Paper tape, everything. Um, and then, those would dry for a day. We'd come back in the next day and we'd pull sand, everything. Just a quick swipe down the tape to get rid of any edges or anything like that.
Yep.
And then we'd put our first coat of mud on. And then that would dry. And then we'd sand that down. And then we'd come back and we put another, and we would sand in between every stage. Um, so to have, and then one day I had a super tell me, like, you guys sand way too much. And we, I had this taper once that came in, and all he did, he put his tapes on, his coats on, and then he didn't do any sanding till the last thing. And I was
Yeah.
like my mind was blown. I was like, what? I'm like, you can do that? From that moment on, that was my goal. I'm like, I fucking hate sanding.
Yeah.
I'm like, I do not want to sand. That's what I do now.
Yeah.
And now that I do residential mostly, like it's clutch
Yeah.
to be like, don't worry, I'm not going to make dust in your house every single day that I'm here.
Yeah.
It's going to be, the last day, and it's going to be dusty. I'm not going to say it's not,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. The last days are a bugger, but then seal everything off 100% once.
yeah, absolutely. And then there's going to be one day of cleanup and everything instead of, every day you being like, oh my God, there's all this dust all over the place.
Tracking fucking dust everywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, this apprentice,
your ears and
this apprentice was good. Like I said, he was really good and listened and worked really hard. And unfortunately, I haven't talked to him in a while. He kind of flipped out a little bit at the company that I worked for after I left. I heard he had a little bit of a
breakdown.
Yeah, and like yelled at everyone, told them all that he was better than them and stuff, and like left. And it was kind of weird. And I tried to reach out because I guess like I knew, um, before he came to us, he had a bit of a drug problem and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So to me, when I heard that, I was like, oh shit, like I hope he's okay. So I tried to reach out and be like, hey man, like if you ever need anything or you want to talk or anything, like let me know. Like it's cool. Like I really like
got $50.
Oh, fuck. But yeah, he was good. And like honestly, so we started running the boxes.
Yeah.
And I had him do that. And he was
And,
so good, man. Like it was like I was like, cool, you run the boxes, I'll do all the finesse stuff and everything like that. Like it was awesome. He was so good.
so Cam, right? He runs the taper, period.
Yeah.
And not like he does more than that, but I mean, like in his process for some of these guys, he comes in, tapes the whole fucking house, and then goes, "Here you go."
Yeah.
And it's just I don't think that it's anyone's bad at running it. It's just he's so good
That
at
good.
running it. So
Yeah.
just run boxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you sometimes not everybody's got to be a Swiss Army knife, right? Like I'm fortunate that I am. You're fortunate that you are, right? But there are guys that like kick ass doing T-bar and drop ceilings.
Yeah.
And they're real good at it.
Yeah.
So just let them fucking do that.
Yeah.
Right. And like I think the more companies that figure that kind of shit out are the ones that are starting to succeed instead of like, we want everyone to be amazing at everything. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
Like, and the problem with that is it's not that everybody can't do it. It's that you're having everybody do 4 out of 5 things 60%. Just let them do what they're good at, and then fill in the blanks, right? Create a team.
Yeah.
And it's just a lost art, right? Like you do hear about these teams though, where everyone's got the positive to the last guy's negative kind of thing, and that circle happens and everything's perfect. But they're few and far between. Like,
oh yeah,
a
absolutely.
lot of guys are 1 or 2 man teams. Because realistically, you should be in pairs with drywall.
Yes.
You got a cutter, you got an installer, or whatever.
Yeah.
2's kind of the magic number.
Yeah. I wish I had that.
Yeah, me too, actually. Till I met Foz.
I had a guy that worked with the old company, the commercial company that I worked for. Really good kid. He's like in his 20s. And we did a couple jobs together. But he just wants to be paid in cash.
Oof.
And
you pay his taxes.
So the last job that I worked with him, we did that, and the company that we were doing the job for wanted invoicing. So I was like, okay, I can invoice. And then he didn't want to invoice me. I paid him and everything, but that was it, right? And I'm like, hey, like if you could just invoice, like it would be that much better. Like I want to keep on working with you. He's awesome, man. He's really good to work with, good at what he does. And man, like it took me a while to pick up drywall and everything. Like it's easy, but I mean to get to where I am today, like it took me a while.
Yeah.
This kid picked it up pretty quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little heartbreaking on my end, because I wish I even just talked to him recently and I was like, hey man, like I might have this job coming up. Would you be able to help me with drywall? He was like, yeah, man, like back in the old days, yeah, I'd love to. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, how are you on invoicing, or do you still want to just make cash? And he's like, well, I'd prefer cash. And I'm like, damn it. Like, I'm just like,
wouldn't we all know?
Right.
What are you talking about?
And I'm just like, I can't eat that much, like, I'm like, I could eat a little bit.
But I mean, do I get to charge you out 30% less?
Well, that's what I
Because
mean.
I'll do that, cash.
And
Like,
that's
if you are paying your own shit, I'll do it.
yeah, that's what I mean.
If
Like
somebody looks at me and goes, working 100 hours a week, I'll be like, watch my stories on my Instagram for 2 weeks. Okay. I could get away with doing fucking 40 hours a day in invoicing.
yeah,
But that's the problem though.
yeah,
Like that first year, we had a lot of guys come out and help here and there and left and right and up and down. And at the end of the year, like I had a fucking bill to pay, you know?
yeah,
And I think we overpaid a lot for like what you got out of people where, if you go find a drywall apprentice and pay him 25 bucks cash an hour, that person can take measurements, cut, install, probably set tape. Like it could put a corner bead on. Like you can leave them to their own devices.
yeah,
Like these some of these people that came to site, like it was like I asked them to spot screws. Like just spot the screws in this house and I'll pay you hourly to do that. And then I would come by to sand and the screws were fucked.
yeah,
And it's like, dude, it's not even worth it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's tough. It's that's a big part of this teach out stuff that we're going to start doing, right? Where we just want companies hiring young people and training them properly, right? And
yeah,
that's going to be the whole handshake of it all. Like the three-ways on board, Can-Am's on board, Columbia's on board, CSR's on board of like we're going to give them discounts, right? Like
yeah,
it's like 10% off your first purchase of tools. Well, everybody has that, but I mean like companies don't know about it.
yeah,
Um, and the three-ways come at a certain price, and it's just because they're eventually going to buy it in bulk, right? And everybody wins. I said this to Steve today. Shout out to Stephen Brown. We talk almost every day. And I was saying, the in sales, right? It's usually at the max 3 out of the 4 people are winning.
yeah,
And that's good enough, kind of, right? Until you want to start sleeping real good at night. And then it's like everybody involved needs to win or I'm not doing it. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And we've kind of created a pitch and talked to the companies, and it's like everyone involved's going to win. So it's very easy to sell.
yeah,
Where, we're contacting companies, we're saying, where are you at? Like, because there are going to be companies that are like, what's a compound tube?
yeah.
And honestly,
Oh, I believe you.
there will be.
I believe you.
And I'll be like, come with me,
Yeah,
right? I'm going to bring that case behind you and a compound tube set, and I'm going to say, have you at least seen all these? Okay, right? And just do teach outs. We're going to talk about fresco. We're going to talk about three-way, and just things that like you can have an apprentice putting in three-ways, right? And he's now paying for himself. So
yeah,
you're not hemorrhaging money on this kid who shows up fucking 5 minutes late every day because he doesn't have work ethic yet because he's a kid,
yeah.
right? And
We've all been there.
we've all been there. But I think when you're the one paying the bill, you forget,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when this kid's coming in and pulling his weight, he's moldable, right? He's not a fucking nuisance.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole deal. We started looking into some of this stuff though. Like there's government grants to start classes. Like if you wanted to make a school, there's money there for that.
Oh, yeah.
You just have to figure it out. So this was one of those rabbit holes where it was just like, okay, let's start doing something good. And then it just started escalating left and right. And where do you stop? And then it's like, okay, well, this is kind of where we stop. And then you hear about these grants and like you talk to people, maybe would they want to get involved and they're excited now. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
I heard that they're going to start implementing in high school that kids have to take a um like a trades class or whatever, or like do a co-op for trades or something like that. It doesn't matter which one, but
It
which I think is amazing.
should be mandatory.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the idea. I think they're going to make it like the volunteer hours that they were kind of implementing for a while.
Used to be co-op. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did a co-op when I was in high
Yeah.
school and everything, but
I have a grade 9 education.
do you really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I have 9 credits, something
Yeah.
like that.
I graduated, but
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
education level is probably about the same, to be honest.
Yeah, I was fortunate with that kind of stuff because I had such a poor education. I would kind of be in a room with people and I would not understand something and get self-conscious about it. And then that was my trigger to learn about whatever that one thing was.
Yeah.
And then, but I've been in like a lot of different rooms. So
Well,
I've done a lot of teaching.
you know what? It doesn't show
Yeah.
that you've only had a grade 9 education level. And I think about what is it, Goodwill Hunting,
Yeah.
when he talks about, he's like, you're gonna find you got this fucking $1 million education when you could have got it for $1.25 late charges at the library,
It's literally.
type thing. And that's how I was with education. I'm like, what do I want to go to college or university for?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know what I want to go for. I don't know what I want to be. I'm like, secondly, like if I want to learn something, I go to the library. Now the internet, it's like I can look anything up if I want to learn about it,
Yeah.
you know?
I was this perfect storm of like I know better and like way too much testosterone and like I was stubborn, right? So like I would make
Probably a little
these
cocky too,
and,
maybe.
and that was a big part of it too. Where it's like, yeah, I will go get a fucking job and I'll show you how easy it is. And I went and got a commission job, which meant like if you knocked on 300 doors, it was real hard not to make 3 sales,
Yeah.
right? And then, but I 50 bucks a pop or whatever. I was making pretty good money.
Yeah.
But I ate shit every step of the way, but that's the way to learn things correctly,
Yeah.
right? If somebody says push one of two buttons and you push the wrong one and get kicked in the nuts, you'll be awful careful the next
Yeah.
time you come to that situation. You'll know which one kicks you in the nuts.
Yeah.
And that's when you hit a certain point, there's just you can't do things. You've done everything wrong so much that there's nothing else to do wrong, and you're just very good at everything all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Drywall was like that with me. I figured it out real early, like immediately. It all just made sense,
Yeah.
and then it was just like the shortcuts, like figuring out how to do it fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of taught or told by my boss when I was apprenticing, like, learn how to be good and speed will come.
Yes.
Now I feel like speed never came, but I learned how to get really good at what I do,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm sure I'm faster than I was. But sometimes I run into guys that are been doing it for like 2 or 3 years. And I'm like, Jesus, that guy's quick. And I'm like, holy man, I did not get that quick. Like, I'm like, I don't know. But I pride myself on quality work.
That's me too.
Like that's my whole thing is Nathan's Drywall, the quality your home deserves. That's my slogan.
Oh, I like that.
And and
that plastered up everywhere. I like that.
right? The quality your home deserves. It just kind of came out one day and I was like, that's what I'm going for. Because I'm like, there's so many people. I had a post on my Instagram once actually. I did a T-bar ceiling for this woman in her basement, and I just had like a little bit of the ceiling that I had to drywall just a little further so to make the T-bar work, tape it, finish it, and everything. And as I go to light check my work, my light shines on the wall that she's so proud of that she had this taper come in and do her taping for her. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I start shining it down the wall, and I put a post. I'm like, this is why we light check.
Yeah.
I'm like, because this guy came in here, ran mud everywhere. And I'm like, sure, she doesn't notice. I'm like, but her ceiling's not done yet. Now she's going to have pot lights everywhere. And some of them might shine down these walls. And now you're going to see all this stuff that this guy paid and walked away with because
But
he
he was
can.
super cheap, and he was in it here so fast,
I'm sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it drives me nuts because I'm like, it's the reason I started off on my own. I've only been on my own since September of
Oh, okay.
2022. Okay. I worked for a commercial company for about 10 years. Left them just because I thought it was time,
Yep.
Just the way things were going and everything.
You have to figure out when that escape time is, where you're not absorbing any more information.
Yeah, it was hard. I told you, like
Family.
it was my best friend's little brother and dad who, I've known them all since I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
Even now I feel like, man, should I be like paying them a portion of what I'm making because they taught me all this stuff? Like, like I couldn't do this without them.
Yeah.
you know but yeah, so I left them and I was gonna go out on my own and I was a little scared. So I got a job with a renovation company and I was working with them um until I realized I was being taken advantage of a little bit. you know?
Royce from the Three Way said it best, is that good workers aren't appreciated, they're exploited.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Me too.
Yeah. So I worked.
I know that's not exactly what you said, Royce, but fucking
I'll
close enough.
I'll have to rewatch that podcast.
Yeah. Everybody rewatch all the podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're better this third time around.
um, but yeah, so I went and worked with this renovation company, and I was going to jobs, and I've seen this in commercial as well. I do my job, and then it's just like people say, it's good enough. No one's going to notice that.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point now where I'm like, yeah, they probably won't notice it. You're right.
Well,
That's why they hired the professional, because we're supposed to be the ones to be like, no, that's not good enough. It needs to be better. I've never had a client that I've approached and said, I'm going to be done on Thursday. And when Thursday comes, I say, you know what? There's this one spot over there that I'm not 100% happy with, and I'd like to take another day at it. I've never had anybody be like, no, you said you were going to be done today.
No,
that's unacceptable.
I hope it's fucked, and we're writing a review.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So, commercial, I kind of understand, because it's like there's that crunch time of it's got to get handed over, and then you hand it over anyways, and then they go through deficiencies, and you got to go back and do stuff anyways, right? But the renovation company, like, the money that some of these companies are charging these homeowners for renovation. And like I did one, and it was a bathroom renovation for an ensuite, huge. I don't even want to tell you what it cost.
Yeah.
Or what the lady was charged. But she had her ceiling in her bedroom was a vaulted ceiling. You could see every joint in the drywall as it came down. And she was like, yeah, I'm really not happy with that. This is like not what we did.
Yeah.
And it was just like that. And she was like, but like to fix that, you'd probably have to pull the drywall down and blah, blah, blah. I said, no, I could probably just go over it with some mud and everything and feather it out and make it look a little nicer. And she was like, oh, really? And she was like, oh, can you talk to your boss and see if they can add that in? I said, sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure they added it in. I couldn't tell you what they charged. I'm sure it wasn't cheap. So I went over it, got called off that site to do other stuff. And then I had to go back to help with the bathroom install, the vanities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which isn't really something I do. It was just kind of, the renovation company. I'm there to help. And I came back and the ceiling's painted. And there's like, it wasn't sanded down enough. It looks, I'm going to say, just as bad as it did beforehand, just more mud.
Different.
Yeah.
Made a different.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Guys. Like, I'm like, I wasn't done here.
Yeah.
Don't worry. She's not going to notice. I'm like,
she is going to notice.
Yeah.
But just like she said to you, yeah,
Yeah. And she,
more shitty work.
Exactly. And I talked to her on my last day with this company. I went and saw her.
Yeah.
She lives right by me. Sweet lady. Her husband passed away not too long ago, and just a wonderful person. And yeah, I talked to her about it, and we talked about the job and everything, and how like this renovation company. She's like, yeah, like I thought they were friends.
Yeah.
And everything, and like this is now they're like blowing me off and giving me shit because I have complaints about the work and stuff like that, and I'm like, I am so sorry that this is how it went. Like
when I started my business, actually it's a very similar story. I started it, that headhunter that got me this guy I know,
yeah,
reaches out, says, I've got a guy, he's got a kitchen company, he does all kinds of cool kitchen works, right? But he's now taking on larger projects where he's taken on the entire kitchen, like blowing out the back wall of a house and restructure and then all that, which I'm great at.
Yeah.
So there should be a handshake. No problem. But I mean, you're not hiring me. I'm going to invoice you, and then we kind of talked about a lot of things that never happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it got to the point where I was stuck with how poorly he was treating his customers and how I was boots on the ground and how I felt like it was reflecting on me. And it like I was losing sleep over it.
Yeah.
And eventually, I've been doing a demo. It kind of got to the point where like he would bring people into demo and they would fucking make a mess of it and I'd have to fix it. And then, so I just started doing everything.
Yeah.
So I come in, do the demo, drywall's up, start taping. Electricians have come in and out, so now I'm site supering as well. Like I'm taking the whole thing over like it's my company,
Yeah.
and they bring in all these cabinets that pretty fucking clearly aren't this customer's cabinets.
Yeah.
So he can get his next draw. And then the one girl goes, okay, well, we'll get these out of here so you'll have more room to do your work, and says it loud enough for the customer to hear it. And then they bugger off with the cabinets. And I was like, okay. So now we're in a legal problem. Like I'm the face guy here, and you've just illegally you fucked someone, right in
Yeah.
front of me. You didn't call me first. Like we didn't even have this discussion. So I sent him an email when I got home that like as of immediately we're done. And I understand that there's balances owing on things, and we're halfway through some projects, and I'm gonna take a hit, but I don't give a fuck. We're done.
Yeah. Good for you.
And then I got a phone call from him, and he just, I just don't know how we misunderstood each other today. And I was like, I don't think we fucking did. I think I know exactly what happened. And so and so this, and the first thing he did was throw his lead hand under the bus.
Oh God.
Well, he might be up to something kind of thing. And I was like, you motherfucker. So I called my dad. Anytime that I have like a real I'm struggling with it. Like, am I being too much? I call my dad, and
Yeah.
he'll
He's your Jiminy Cricket.
he's my Jiminy Cricket,
Yeah.
and my cousin is too, and they both agreed on this, where they were like, "Fuck him." And when you called him on it, the first thing he did was lie to you, and then the second thing he did was throw the first
Throw
person he
someone
could
under the
under the
bus.
bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to be a part of that? We're done. And then my dad took me to the keg, because that's where a lot of our money was coming from in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then immediately, I think I was booked out to September, and we did this like in May. So like I don't think it was 4 months, but we had a lot of booked out.
Yeah.
Right. So then we had to scramble to pick up the next, but it was worth it, and the
Yeah.
integrity was worth it.
Scary at first, but yeah.
Well, and that's the whole thing. And like you said, when you jump out on your own, you do need to kind of do it with some water wings on, of like some sort of a safety net of you're not going to be making as much as what you're worth, but it's more than what you were before, and you're a lot more in control, but not. And
Yeah.
then get comfortable, and then it's time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It is scary. I had one guy. So last year, I quit the commercial company. It was like, the time off that we had at Christmas. And I went in, I went to my boss's house, handed my resignation, uh, glowing resignation, like you guys are going to be, are a great company and everything like that. And I just feel it's time for me to leave, so forth and so on. And, I think he and myself both had like tears running down our face as he opened it up and read it in front of me and everything like that, and hugged each other. And I left, and,
yeah, huge bummer, but the right thing.
yeah, exactly. And then from that time on, I went with that renovation company, but I also started getting gigs on my own, which was hard because my wife has her own company.
Okay.
She runs a massage clinic in Erin and in Kitchener. She got two locations that she's doing. We got two kids that we got to take care of. So it's a lot. So I got hooked up with these a couple companies out of Kitchener Waterloo that were flipping houses.
Perfect.
Which was awesome. Um, However, I was like, even at first, so it was actually before I'd quit the commercial company, I started working for a couple of these and working commercial drywall and taping. So we'd have a job in like Brampton.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a house flip in Kitchener, or New Dundee, I think was where one of the first ones was. So I was going in the middle of the night to New Dundee, working on this house, and then driving to Brampton or wherever to like work commercial drywall for the day, and then going home, looking after the kids, when my wife works and everything, getting dinner ready, and then going to sleep for a couple hours, waking up, driving to New Dundee, working there, and then over to Brampton to work at like a commercial drywall job. And it was like that when I was working for the renovation company too.
Yeah.
I was picking up these house flips, and it was like, hey, well, what time do I have free? I got weekends, and I got like the middle of the night when everyone's supposed to be sleeping.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing.
Yeah, but like any decent entrepreneur that's speaking about it always says like you don't need to quit your job and start. You just need to start and
Yes.
like make the time, do it. And then eventually your job will start interfering with your passion and you get rid of the job. But that's the only way, in my opinion, to do it properly, right? Where you're putting in extra hours to start this thing on your own, right?
Yeah.
And you're doing it. So how could you not do it if you got rid of the last thing, right? Like get rid of all the roadblocks and then kind of spread your wings a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you really do need to cram as much shit as you can into your life if you're thinking about burning your boats.
Oh yeah.
And then when you do, it's just a relief.
Yeah.
Like you just now I have the time to do this shit. And now I'm really moving.
And as scary as it was, so like, fast forward to November, I quit this renovation company,
Yeah.
which did not go over well. I, handed them what I thought was a glowing resignation, like I did the other one,
Yourself.
pretty much, man, pretty much. I was like, yeah, here's my 2 week resignation. He was like, no, I'll give you a week. And like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm like, shit. And I think he's like tried to start a fight with me. I'm at his house and he's trying to start a fight with me.
Jesus.
And I was like, I kind of tucked my tail between my legs because I'm like, I'm not about to start a fight in someone else's house. Like, that's not going to go over well when the cops show up and I'm the one that doesn't live here.
You're the aggressor. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that did not go over well. And I mean, I wish I had my what's the proper saying? My eggs in a basket or something like that. Cause I wish I could have just been like, fuck your 1 week. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Cause that's what I wish I could have done.
Oh, I'll one up your 1 week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But I was totally thinking like, oh, hey, am I 2 weeks in? They'll be happy with that. And, I don't want to burn any bridges or anything like that. And yeah, he was like, nope, I'll give you a week. And I was like, fuck. And it was a husband wife
Yeah.
company.
You tell him I don't quit, you're fired.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Okay, good.
And so I'm like walking out the door. I'm like, holy shit, that didn't go very well. And the wife is like, so are you coming to work tomorrow? And I was like, I guess, like you guys just said, I have a week. What I should have said was, why don't you ask your husband and see if he wants me to come back tomorrow? Like, I don't really know what's going on here. But yeah, I went to work for my last week and then I got my last paycheck and they paid me out for the 2 weeks. So I'm like,
cool, man.
Yeah, I'm like, what? You guys paid me for that. Why didn't you just let me work the last 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And then the people that I work with that last week, because I still talk to them, one of them was their nephew who quit the day after I did. Him and I, we still talk. And actually, I just talked to him the other day.
He's like, looks like a free week of work to me. I'm fucking in.
Yeah, he was just like, no, he had to work his 2 weeks. They didn't make it. They didn't give him 1 week. But yeah, I talked to them and they were like, yeah, we were like, fuck that week. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why they just didn't let me come in and work that week.
So
like,
foolish.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it was really like, that I don't know, like he's in his 50s and just a weird way to react, like puff up your chest and try and be that guy when he could just like
Yeah.
my resignation said everything. I'm so happy with the connections that I made here and what I've learned and everything like that. I just think it's time for me to go out on my own. And I had that 1 week off that I was paid for anyways. My wife, God bless her soul, rushed her ass off, got my website started, and got everything up and going. And I haven't had any time off since, and that was that me being scared about it and everything like that to being like, wow, like what the fuck was I scared about?
My biggest fear was that we weren't going to have enough work.
Yeah.
And
yeah, mine too.
Yeah. And by the end of that first year, we were turning down 15 jobs a week.
Oh, holy shit.
But now some of them are stupid, but we still had to turn them down. Like it was just like we started implementing minimums, and then that minimum got to be like $4,500, and then it was just that was an easy turn down where it was just like, listen, if you want a week of our time, which we really only do, or it's a daily price of this, which is you can't afford.
Yeah.
And that's why it is that. Because if somebody wants me to do something, you're more than welcome to do that, but I'm going to charge you enough that you're very serious about it.
Yeah.
And if you're that serious about it, cool.
No, I've heard you say that on another podcast as well. Like you charge this and if you want me to do it, this is what it costs. And that's kind of where I'm at too,
Yeah.
to a certain point and everything. I mean, I love working, so I take mostly
Same.
everything that comes to my on my plate right now,
Yeah.
for the most part. Um,
We talked about that too today, though. I'll fucking take a loss on some sites because
yeah,
I just want to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, there's that, well, if you want me to do it, like I also know what's out there, people that try and bargain, or I get this a lot where they're like, well, will you take cash?
Sure will.
And I'm like, I will, but it's the same price as everything else. Like I take cash, check, e-transfer, whatever you want to pay me with, but it doesn't break the cost down at all. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to run a business here. I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like people think like, oh, well, cash will be cheaper. Like, how does that work? I don't really
You're
understand.
supposed to take that cash and put it in a jar out
Yeah.
and buy
Yeah, exactly.
groceries with it.
Well, that's the thing is it's
Until
like,
you
what?
get fucking audited. Like you seem to take a lot of work off this year
Yeah.
with that nice truck of yours.
Yeah. Oh man,
You're
people
like,
are
yeah,
so funny.
we're also booking a lot of fucking material for this year. It doesn't look like we did much.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't do anything. Oh my goodness. That's so funny.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. And I think there was a pretty huge time where there's no way the government would have been able to even possibly think about knowing about half of the people that were doing it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
now that we're in a digital age, like if you're writing something off, they want to see the receipts
Yeah.
or they'll audit you. And man, you better hope to Christ you have those receipts.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I keep everything now.
yeah,
I mean, I have for a while because I found out even being an employee, you can still write off quite a bit.
it's actually quite a bit.
So, I mean, I've always kept, I mean, I've been keeping everything for, since I was started drywalling pretty
Yeah,
much because I found out writing things off, your vehicle,
yeah,
your cell phone, like, oh, your work needs to be able to get a hold of you while you're on site. Okay, well, that's a write off then, you know? And just from being an employee, I was getting like
boots.
5 grand back a year
Yeah,
from just being an employee.
yeah, safety stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny because my wife tried to write off her clothes one that she didn't try. We just asked our accountant.
He's like, oh, we did.
She was like, no, we didn't. She was like, can I write off my clothes because he can write off his? And the accountant's like, well, he's like his is like a safety shirt and yours is like just regular clothes. Wow. Yeah, so it doesn't really work like that. You can wear your clothes whenever. He's not walking into a club wearing a safety shirt.
She's like, in my defense, I would be fired if I didn't have the clothes.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, that's the other thing. I'm like, well, she needs to be able to dress nice as a business person, I'm like, you would think he would still be able to write that off, but I guess it doesn't really work like that. I don't know. In Alberta, you can write off a gym membership.
Yeah.
You can write off $500 a year towards like personal activity or whatever. So like if you're in a hockey league or something like that, you can write $500 of that off a year.
Which is smart because active people are healthy and
right?
It doesn't cost an arm and a leg for all your horse shit at the hospital. That's free. And
yeah,
but the government doesn't think very hard.
No, they don't. I mean, I wouldn't look like this if the government gave us $500 a year towards towards gym memberships.
I'd be fucking booking it and eating pizzas. All right, we'll be right back.